and we'll be starting the session now. So, we live in a world of opportunities and challenges. Social media explosion is one of them. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to the session. For the next few minutes, without further ado, I invite our highly capable nodal officer, Mr. Jibin Jose, for the welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. There is a saying written in Charles and Lead Better. You are what you share. Today we have a very relevant webinar session on social media and career management in 21st century. To guide our young generation on this topic today, we have two world famous personalities is with us. Let us welcome Pride of Kerala, Chief of Disaster Risk Reduction, UN Environmental Program, Dr. Murali Tumargudi, to Sahridaya family and to this webinar session. Welcome, sir. I extend my hearty welcome to our second speaker, Ms. Neeraja Janagi, popular career counselor and life coach, and the founder of Mentors for You. And I also extend my hearty welcome to Reverend Father George Parayman, our Executive Director, Dr. Elizabeth Elias, our Director, Dr. Sudha George, our Joint Director, and Dr. Nixon Kurvula, our Principal. I extend my hearty welcome to all the participants. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Murali Tumargudi, who will enlighten us with a talk on whose profile.
Thank you.
A few words on sir. Sorry, sir.
Yes,
So, a
please.
few words about our speaker. Mr. Murali Tumargudi is the United Nations Environment and has 30 plus years of international experience. Sir has been providing lectures on career management for the past 15 years around the world. Mr. Murali writes extensively on artificial intelligence and the work of future. A prolific author and social media influencer, he is also a two-time winner of Kerala Sahitya Award Academy. Sir, we are highly honored to have you here and we welcome you. I now invite Sir to take over the session.
Thank you. We were invited to talk to the Sahridaya College probably almost 6 months now, and we have been pending this invitation for a long time. So I thank the Sahridaya College for this invitation and for being patient for this long. I want to recognize the presence of the director, the principal, and other dignitaries in this session. Before I start, I just want to check if the voice is clear. Neeraja, can you confirm with a thumbs up? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So we are talking to you. I noticed that there are more than 200 people on the forum, which is quite impressive. I must also say that increasingly we hear jokes about people signing on and leaving the place, which has become routine. In my sessions, I tell the students that there is no compulsion for me, for people to stay. If they are interested in what I'm speaking, please stay. If you are not interested, please do not stay. It's not mandatory. But what is mandatory is that if you are listening and if you do have questions, please feel free to raise them and start to raise as soon as you have the question. You don't have to wait for the end. So please type in the chat the type of questions you have. I will be following it continuously so that I will be able to answer those questions, but also incorporate them as I speak. So please start your questions as and when you have questions. I also want to recognize the presence of my colleague Neeraja in the session. So we are meeting you at a very interesting time. We are the world is probably just coming out of the biggest crisis we have seen in generations. Never since the Second World War, there was a situation where so many people were impacted around the world at the same time. But in terms of impact, in terms of the reach, the corona crisis was even much bigger than Second World War. Between December 2019 and April 2020, all the 193 member states of the United Nations were impacted by COVID. Most of them actually went into a lockdown. And this has never happened in human history. It was a health crisis for sure, but it was not just a health crisis. It was also an economic crisis. We had almost all the economies, including those economies which did not go into lockdown, such as Sweden, which suffered shrinking of their economies. Many up to 10%, many up to 25% even. India, I think, was 23%. When economies shrink, jobs get affected. So we had, according to the International Labour Organization, of the 3.2 billion people who are working around the world, which is 320 crore, half of them, 160 crore, had their job impacted one way or the other. And 8.5% of the jobs, which is about 300 million jobs, 30 crore jobs, were lost during this period. These jobs went away. Education was impacted dramatically as well. UNESCO estimate that there are 1.6 billion students in their learning age, anything from the nursery to PhD. And the life of all of them have been impacted. And in most cases, it has not gone back to normal. The very fact that I'm meeting you online is a consequence of the challenges and the changes which happened in education domain. So we are talking to you in this particular time in history where corona affected all our lives and changed a lot of it. But luckily we are at a position now that, as the Director General of the World Health Organization said, we can at least dream about the end of this crisis. Vaccine is here, vaccines are here, and vaccination is going on at very rapid pace in many parts of the world. And there are early indications that it is affecting the rate of spread. So I think it's very fair to hope that by June next year, your classes would start in the classroom as normal. And by September next year, planes will start to take off. And by December next year, we will probably have near normal life. But when I say near normal life, please do not expect the world will go back to February 2020. Because there are greater forces at work as well. We are also in the beginning of what we call the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution started, as you know, with the steam engine. The second one with electricity and mass production. The third one with advances in electronics. And the fourth one in 2020, in 2010s, started with the rapid expansion of artificial intelligence and robotics and high-speed internet and Internet of Things and set of developments in the biological domain. So what we saw as COVID, which certainly looked to us like a tsunami coming on our way, would be much smaller in comparison to the bigger tsunami which is really coming our way, which is called the fourth industrial revolution, which has also started. So when we understand the full consequence of the fourth industrial revolution, then you will think that COVID was just a blip on the top of this bigger wave which was coming in our way. We may not feel it that way, but that is always the case. When you have Second World War starting, you never think this is history sweeping over you. You see one battle at a time. But now that we have the COVID going up and coming down, the further industrial revolution is going to sweep over us. How we will all come out of this will depend entirely upon how well prepared you are. If we are not prepared to face the fourth industrial revolution, we will be swept away by the tsunami or the tide which is coming our way. But if we are actually prepared for the arrival of the fourth industrial revolution, we can ride the wave of fourth industrial revolution. This is why I am talking about the future of career and how social media would be impacting. I would speak more about the future of employment, social media per se, but not social media and employment. My colleague Neeraja would cover those aspects. And I would then expect you to have questions, because what we are going to speak will have profound impact on the life of each one of you. So it is important that you listen and understand how the world of work is going to change. The very notion of career itself is going to change, because career is something where you study something, to be a doctor or a mechanical engineer or a musician, then you stick with it through your working life. And then you grow in that profession progressively with experience. But in the fourth industrial revolution, you will not have that luxury. My generation had that luxury. I started an environmental engineer, I continue to be one, and I will retire as one. But your generation will not have that luxury. According to the International Labour Organization, the jobs of future would have three types of impact by the fourth industrial revolution. Number one are the massive amount of jobs which will be lost due to the new technologies which are coming our way. Number two are those jobs which will be created by the fourth industrial revolution, by the new technologies. And number three, which are the majority of the jobs which will neither be eliminated nor are new jobs, but every other remaining job which will be dramatically modified by the arrival of new technology. So this is how the jobs are going to shift. And you have to realize this, that life is not going to be as usual. The simplest example to take is probably that of a teacher. In February 2020, the job of a teacher was very clear. The teacher had a syllabus to teach. She or he will come to the classroom, prepared to teach the session, and they taught you face to face. And then you went home, then you did the homework, then you came back the next day, and life went on. But now that has changed. Teaching went online. And then you sat at home and you learned the topics. And the teacher then taught you online. This is what happened in most engineering colleges. But what happened in the schools, if you were following, was slightly different. There is not every teacher teaching every classroom. For the state government, the lessons were being taught by few teachers, but broadcast to the entire state. So hundreds of thousands of students in class 1 listen to exactly one teacher from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning, or 9 to 9:40 in the morning, teaching mathematics. And then another teacher comes and she teaches English another 40 minutes. All the 100,000 students or more in class 1 right across the state, from Kasargod to Trivandrum, learn from one teacher. And the student could actually be sitting anywhere. They could be sitting in classroom and in their homes in Kerala. But there are many of those children who are now sitting in Dubai or in Bangalore or wherever. It doesn't matter where they're sitting. They're able to listen to this teacher and follow the lessons. This is going to be the future of teaching. The future of teaching will not be about one teacher teaching a cohort of 35, 40, or 100 students. It will be one teacher teaching 1,000,000 students, probably even more. If you go to Coursera, there's a course called the Science of Well-being. Dr. Laurie Swantes from the Yale University. And her course, when I checked last, was taken by more than 3 million students. Normally, she teaches to about 25 students in the classroom. You can see in the classroom how many students are there. But now, more than 3 million students have taken. Coursera, which was just established in 2012, now have 73 million learners. 73 million learners. If you take all the famous universities which we are familiar with, the Oxford, the Cambridge, the Harvards, MITs, Stanford, what you will see is that all of them in their entire history, if you aggregate, probably did not have as many learners passing through them as Coursera has managed to do in the last 10 years. This is future of teaching. So this is how professions are going to change. So if the teacher is not prepared or aligned to be that super teacher of future who will teach 1,000,000 students, then the teaching profession would have a challenge. And any other profession which you take, be that of a doctor, be that of a pilot, would have the same impact. There is a report from the Oxford University, it's called Oxford Martin School Study, which talk about the future of employment. This study, they say that 46% of all the job categories which exist in the world now would vanish before 2030. Just 10 years, 46% of all the job categories, not even all the jobs. So to give an example, the job of a driver is one job category. The job of a pilot is another job category. So if the job of a driver category vanish, it removes a lot more jobs than the category of a pilot. So if 46% of the job categories are removed, you are talking about more than 50% of all the jobs getting eliminated. Neerja has just pasted the Oxford Martin School report in the chat box. Please take a look at that. So this is a challenge which you will have to face in your coming years. And it is in this context that we are talking to you about social media. We can talk about how do you align your career in this period if you have questions. But today, since our focus is on social media, we will talk about social media now, and then we will answer questions. We all know what role social media is playing in our life. We are almost addicted to social media, all of us, something or the other. It started as something called Orchid. I don't even remember if you know about Orchid. If any one of you remember about Orchid, I would like you to type that in the chat. Do you remember a program called Orchid? So I think it was in 2007. My nephew, when I met him in London, said, you know, uncle, you must be in Orchid because that's sort of the future. I went and I had an Orchid account. And now that's no longer there. And then came Facebook. And I'm sure all of you are there. So I'm going to ask you, when did you actually join Facebook? Did you join in 2012, 13, 14, 15, whatever? So if you could chat in the chat box, when exactly did you join Facebook? This is just for me to do an experiment as to when you actually joined Facebook. I'm not seeing anybody chatting, writing itself. Celeste enjoy writing 2016. Okay, 2012. Very good. You know, it started exploding. You know, of course, it started, I think, 2007 or so. But 2008 onwards, slowly by slowly, and by 2015, started to take over the world. That's just one of them. WhatsApp is another. Instagram is another. And you have Snapchat and you have many YouTube, many other social media. So I see a lot of people joining around 2015. It's very good. Now, many people may actually tell you that the social media is not very good. You shouldn't be spending too much time on social media and so on and so forth. Though they may not actually explain why joining social media is not good. I am one of those people who actually tell joining social media is a good thing, that you should join social media. If actually somebody of your age, 2021, yes, somebody come to me and say, I don't have a membership in social media, I would actually say that's not a very good. But there are things which we have to understand about social media. Otherwise, it will have many impact on your life, but including on your career. And Neeraj will speak in detail about it. But I just want to say one thing about social media algorithm. As much as you are watching other people on social media is watching you using a powerful program called the algorithm. It is profiling you all the time. And the amount of information which the algorithm can glean from you, it can distill about you from the way you interact with the social media is unbelievable. Just from 69 interaction which you have with social media, with Facebook. Facebook can predict your habit as good as your best friend. And with just 300 interaction, it can predict your behavior as good as your family member. These are research which has come out. And all of us probably have done 10,000 interaction with the social media. You can imagine how well they have profiled you. And that profiling they can use to do many things. Primarily, of course, they do it to advertise the right things to you, which is probably not a bad thing. But they also do something very bad. It narrowed down the type of information you receive through social media based upon your profile. So if you have a certain party affiliation, political affiliation, it will bring more and more people of your kind around you. So you'll only see that narrative in the political discourse. If you have a religious view, it will bring people of that religion, that religious view around you. So you only see that discourse. So if you have a scientific view or an unscientific view, the algorithm do exactly that. Let's say you believe the earth is flat. In the past, and there are many people who believe that. In the past, if you said that in public, people will ridicule you. And you'll hear other opinion that this is like very stupid. But in the social media, if you actually hold an opinion that the earth is flat, the algorithm will bring more and more people around you who actually believe the earth is flat, so that you feel emboldened to hold that view. And then you think that's normal, the earth is actually flat. So it will polarize the people into extreme views. And this is something, a big problem. I would stop at this point, and now I'll hand over to my colleague Neeraja to speak about how exactly the social media is going to impact your career, not necessarily in a negative way, but it is going to have an impact. And then we'll take questions. Thank you. Over to you, Neeraja.
Thank you, sir, for your time. We really appreciate your effort to stay here with us, and I'm sure our audience has something useful to take back. Next, we have a session on social media and employment, which will be handled by Ms. Neeraja Janaki. And let me brief you about our speaker. Neeraja Janaki is a career counselor and life coach in Address for You, Kerala. She has an MPhil in psychology from MG University, Kottayam. With professional interests in education and career counseling, Ms. Neeraja has traveled extensively in Europe and Southeast Asia, learning about their education system. She is also the founder of Mentors for You, Kerala's first life coaching center, and blogs on career and life issues. Ma'am, we are really pleased to have you here with us and welcome you to the session. I now invite Ma'am to take over.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, you're
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here to talk to you. So today I'm planning to talk about social media and the chances of getting job or social media and employability. So we all know what is social media. We all are having social media accounts, and Dr. Murali has mentioned it just before. So in different platforms, we have accounts like it's like FB, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, a lot are there. So does your activity in social media platform influence your employability? So this is our question today. The answer is yes, and I'll explain how. So in two ways, your social media activities can influence your, your employability. So sometimes it can slightly improve your chances of getting a job. In another way, it may reduce your chance of getting employed, or even losing your job. So there are two types of social media platforms, like social networking platforms, broadly speaking. One is professional networking platforms, and the other one is personal spaces like Twitter or your Facebook accounts, WhatsApp, and like that. So first, I'll talk about professional networking. So maybe the best example for professional networking platform is LinkedIn. There are other platforms such as Meetup, Udyamitra, Jobcase, and like that. So we can take one example like LinkedIn. That's the most popular one, I think. So what is a professional networking platform? What you can do there? What do you do there? So these professional networking platforms, they focus solely on interactions and relationships of a business nature rather than including personal and business interactions. So it is meant for business, making business connections like that. So what do you do there? I think most of you have LinkedIn accounts. It's a necessity, I think. So you can make business connections there if you have a business, or if you are doing something on your own, you have a company, you can make a LinkedIn account, you can make connections there, you can uh, broaden your network, you can broaden your business. So the other thing, you can make a bio or CV on LinkedIn based on your profile. So your LinkedIn profile or a professional networking profile acts as a CV or resume. So it shows your education qualifications, your work experience, your research experience, and your interest, or whatever you share there. So you can share your resume there, you can search for jobs. And in LinkedIn, there are people who are famous in their fields, like there are researchers, there are world famous, professors, there are scientists, there are business persons. So these people have, presence in LinkedIn. There are, you know, business accounts, like there are companies in LinkedIn, they have LinkedIn presence. So if you follow them or if you connect with them, you can follow their activities, you can make business connections, you can approach them for any suggestions, or for further details. You can search for jobs, you can apply for job. And sometimes if a company or a person finds your profile as impressive, so they'll approach you if there are vacancies in their firms. So uh, it has mutual benefits. So how to create a better LinkedIn account, that's what I want to say next. So unlike other platforms, like if you have a Facebook account, you share your personal things, personal interests, like that. So here in LinkedIn or any other professional networking platforms, you share your professional information there. It includes your academic qualifications, your profession, your interested fields, work and research experience, what all skills you have, your referrals from professors and colleagues, and your sometimes if you have written any original articles, you can share it as well. So there are few things to be considered when you create a LinkedIn profile. So you have to use an active email ID when you create a LinkedIn profile, because uh, especially if you are actively searching for job, please check your email and messages at least twice a day, and respond within 24 hours at least. So the email ID also, it should look professional, not just casual, not just funny titles and usernames. So it should look professional. Then spend some time to write your bio. Uh, you should avoid spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, and all. So you can let someone review it if you need it. So a formal looking photo should be there. Your photo, not a group photo or selfies or sceneries or flowers or photos taken in parties. You should avoid those things. So use a clear photo which can, show your entire face and recognize you. So it should look formal, precisely. Then start after creating an account, start connecting people from your preferred fields, like if you prefer field engineering or mechanical engineering, you can search people using that tag or that word. So don't forget to make it inclusive. Please add people from outside the country or outside the state, because it'll broaden your chances of your world. So can join. There are LinkedIn groups in LinkedIn and any other professional networking site. So can join your preferred sector. There are groups in that. So there will be discussions going on. Get engaged there. But you have to keep something in your mind, that communicate in formal language, or mind your language when you communicate there. Keep it formal and professional. Do not use like, don't start a chat with hi, hello dude, like that. You can write a formal message to someone if you want to ask them something. So make it formal. Um, then these are the things that I wanted to share about professional networking sites. So it will definitely increase your chance of getting a job. So there are another social media platforms like a more personal spaces like your Facebook account, your Insta, your YouTube channel, your Twitter, like that. So what we do there? We interact with people, we share our ideas, our skills, we share posts, comments, our thoughts, like that. We share our photographs. So if you're looking for a job or planning for an international travel, it is risky to share some sort of information on social media. So what are they? Uh, some people have, some people have extreme religious views or extreme views on politics, like that. So, if you are sharing or commenting some of your thoughts, you know, based on your religion and politics, even if you are using your local language, this is the time of artificial intelligence. I think Dr. Murali has mentioned it. So it can easily convert it to any other languages, translated to any other languages. So even if you're writing your comments, your thoughts, or sharing your thoughts in local language, you're not safe. So when you want to share extreme religious or political comments, be keep it in mind. So there are people who are, who has sexist views, homophobia. What is sexism? Sexism, I think you're all aware of it. Sexism is judging someone by their sex. So there are, you may have racist views. Like I have seen some comments and posts often negatively portraying people from different countries and cultures on social media. So this should be avoided. The other major topic you should be aware of, it is international politics. There are issues and problems or negotiations between countries around the globe. So uh, you may have an opinion regarding that. We are coming from a democratic background, so it is common, or it's okay for us to criticize our rulers or comment on any international issues. you know but this can be a problem at any time if you are looking for a job internationally or currently working abroad or in any other countries. For example, like countries like US, they are, if you're planning to make a travel to US, or if you're applying for a visa to US, they'll ask your social media details or your profile. They'll make a thorough check. So another thing is criticizing kings and monarchs. There are a lot of countries who has they have kings or monarchs like Thailand and Britain. So we all know we are, as I mentioned before, we are in a democratic environment. It is not unusual for us to criticize the rulers. So internationally, this is not the case. As I mentioned, Thailand, you may be in jail if you criticize their ruler, their legal heir, or their queen. So you have to keep in mind that there is no privacy in the digital platforms, as Dr. Murli mentioned before. Your digital footprint will remain forever. Even if you are using a private chat like Messenger or WhatsApp, so it's not private. Actually, it is public. So keep in mind, um, especially if you're serious about your career, you're actively searching for a job, or you're planning to make an international travel, or you're working abroad, you cannot cover up your unprofessional side with a well-written CV or resume, because if you apply for a job, your employer will definitely type your name, or they'll search your details in social media platforms. So it is easy for them to find out what kind of a person you are. So we have seen so many examples. Some people made comments on Kerala politics from Gulf countries and lost their jobs. They made their comments in Malayalam, a regional language, about regional politics, but how it impacted their lives. So you can even search on internet and find more such cases. So I'll suggest you to read a person's case like Justin Sacco. Actually, she's an American. She made a racist comment on Twitter during her flight to South Africa from US. So during the flying time, the tweet became so viral, and only she landed when she realized that her tweet became viral and there are protests against her. So she lost her job within a few hours. Within a few hours, everything turned upside down. So she lost her job. So you can search it on internet and read the story. So this is what I wanted to share with you. If you have some more comments or if you have any questions, we can discuss in detail. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words. I'm sure our audience have been enlightened and will put them to use. So, Ken Bowman had once said, good questions inform and great questions transform. And so, for the next few minutes, we'll be taking questions addressed to the speakers from the audience. The audience are now requested to post their questions in the chat box. So, ma'am, we have a question from Jivan sir. He had asked what kind of strategy we should follow in various social media platforms. Ma'am, are you there? Hello?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible now.
The question wasn't clear for me, so could you please repeat it?
Yes, ma'am. So we have a question from Jivan sir. The question is, what kind of strategy we should follow in various social media platforms?
Yeah. As I mentioned before, on professional networking platforms, you can, make irrespective of professional networking platforms and other social media platforms, it is better to behave professionally or formally. Keep in mind that you are in a public domain, so anybody can watch you, anybody can read your comments, anybody can, judge you based on that. Especially if you're, as I mentioned, if you're employed abroad or working here, even for people working here or actively looking for jobs. So be careful when you make a comment. Make sure there is no sexual undertone or racist comments, or uh, it's not controversial based on political and religious views. So be professional. That's what all I wanted to say. In LinkedIn or in professional networking platforms, you can, um, it's not a personal chat box or, you know, uh, a site for chatting. So make only professional connections there. Don't try to, flirt with someone there or make sort of sexual undertone comments there, or just approach people to ask someone, or if you want to approach someone, just tell them that we are happy to connect here with you, and if you have some doubts regarding their professions or your asking for some suggestions, you can clearly say that, or you can share your email ID there. Don't ask for personal mobile number or something like that. Then avoid commenting based on your extreme religious or political views. Be careful always, even in your chat box. That's what I wanted to say. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am. It's clear. Also, ma'am, there's another question for a fresher. Okay, so what do employers look from a social media platform? Like among these three, there's experience, networking, or a zeal to learn more from every opportunity. So, which of these is the most important? Experience, networking, or a zeal to learn more from every opportunity that comes our way?
Sorry, the question is not so clear. Um,
It's like for a fresher, when they come out of college, they don't really have experience, right? So,
mhm.
what could they offer that the employees would find attractive for them to
Okay.
absorb them into their company?
Okay. For a fresher, you can start, you know what area you would like to explore. So if you have done any projects or like that, you just, showcase it in your profile and approach people. You can ask for suggestions, you can join their network, you can follow them, you can read their articles, you can follow their, webinars and all, and you can approach them that I have been following you for a long time. So this is my interested area. So can you give some suggestions? Also, please mention each and every experience you have, even if it is voluntary experience or internships or like that. So please showcase everything you have, every each and every articles or research papers you have. It's like that. And the question is, I think, what do employers look for from our social media platform? Is it?
Yes, ma'am.
I assume it is. They mentioned about professional networking platform,
Yes,
so that's why I said that. Otherwise, employers, if you apply for a job, employers will definitely search your profile on social media, especially your personal spaces like Facebook and Instagram. They'll just type your name and search it. They are, they just wanted to know what kind of a person you are, what is your, how do you uh, behave in a public space, or what kind of a person you are, whether you're professional or trying to, hide your, your unprofessional side with some false, facts on your CV.
yes,
So, is it clear? The question wasn't so, so clear for me. So I was
yes, ma'am. That
just
answered the question.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have a question for Sir. Sir, we have a question from Ms. Winnie Jose, and it is: what are the key skills required for today's budding engineers to be successful in the fourth industrial revolution and the areas of operation? Sir, you're not audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I would thank you for the question. I would add a couple of points to the earlier questions. So the first strategy you should follow in the social media domain is to understand the difference between what is a professional forum and what's the personal forum. You should not treat Facebook like LinkedIn and LinkedIn like Facebook. And this is what Nirja was saying. So the level of informality which you have in Facebook, you should not translate that into LinkedIn. And you should not go and tell somebody good morning the way you would say do in WhatsApp. So that's absolutely important. Number two, you could be very funny in your Facebook, but you should always be polite. If you are not polite and if you're not using good language, it will have major impact on your employment, whether to get into employment or to keep the employment you have. So these are some of the strategies you have to follow, and Neeraj has mentioned other things. In terms of what do employers normally look for, as somebody who is all the time looking for people, I look for people's zeal to learn quite a lot, and also their network. Experience, as you said, will take time to accumulate. And as Neeraj said, whatever little you have, you highlight. But if you don't have, there's much you can do about it. But you can always start to network. So this is what social media is really doing for you. That in the past, you could not reach out to stars and superstars in your profession bilaterally. But now you can, be it being a connection or a follower. And then having followed for some time, then you reach out to them and say, sir, I have been following and you're very inspiring, etc. But never go to somebody and ask for a job. That's a very bad idea and is very unlikely to lead into a job. You can ask for advice on how to get a job. That's okay. And if that person then have an opportunity, they find you suitable, you might actually get a job. But if you actually go and ask directly for a job, you will not get a job for sure. I want all the students, I want to ask the students here, have they ever heard the word ego search? So I want you to say yes or no to the question, have you heard the word ego search? So I'm not seeing any response. I'm wondering if there are people listening to this. So, and even if you have not heard, you can say no, ego search, no. Okay. Okay. So, and I would like to hear from as many as possible, also as an indication as to how many are listening, because this is an important point. Ego search is probably something which you have already done. This is searching your own name on the web. So you go to Google and just type your name and just see what comes out of it. And this is exactly what your employer is going to do tomorrow when you apply for a job. And when you look at what is coming out on the Google, if that is something, and just think how that is going to color the views of someone is looking for you. And if you do have a problem with what you are seeing, then you have a problem. To make something disappear from the internet is almost impossible. And there are people who have committed suicide because they could not erase their footprint on the internet. So the easiest thing is to ensure that you do not get something which you are not comfortable with when you do an ego search. So it is important to behave politely, but also to do an ego search every 6 months or so to see if something which you are not comfortable has come up. And if it is, then go and try to delete. It may not entirely go, but at least try to delete. Now I'll come to the question as to what should students learn at this point. So there are both hard skills as well as soft skills. The soft skills probably you already know, have heard from many people, but I will just say it again. Number one, language. Having good command over English, written and oral, is very essential. Being able to stand up in front of the audience and speak confidently about whatever topic you are speaking is very important. The ability to network with other people is important. There's something called cultural skill, that this is the ability to work with people in other cultures. Now, when you're born in Kerala and study in Kerala, this is actually a problem because you don't get to see many people from other cultures, not even other states. So we recommend that if possible, you should do some type of education outside your state, preferably outside your country. And your employability multiplies manifold when you do that, when you study outside your state or outside your country. And that's not because you learn anything new in terms of the subject you are learning. It is about the cultural skill which you are acquiring, which is increasing your employability. So acquiring the cultural skills is absolutely essential. Of course, you should also have all the life skills, which is important. In the new world of working, which is work from home, your self-discipline is absolutely critical. If you are able to divide your time in such a way that you are with nobody overseeing you, are you able to meet the deadlines which you promise is very critical. People don't realize it. Because when you have some boss sitting over you, then they can understand the difficulties and constraints. The ability to seek help is something which is appreciated by modern organizations. So it is not that you know everything, but the fact that you don't know, but you are willing to seek help is seen as a very positive measure. So please keep that in mind. Seeking help is appreciated. Then you have the hard skills. As I said, regardless of the profession which you are in, it is going to be modified by the fourth industrial revolution. So whichever domain you are currently in, look at which AI tools are coming your way. Master them. And it is in every domain, be it architecture, be it accounting, be it electrical engineering. What I have done is to put a Google alert on AI and my profession so that every morning I get a series of articles linking AI and disasters in my inbox. And I go and search for them. I go and open some of those links. Then understand what developments are coming in my way. And in some of them, if there's a specialized course on AI and electrical engineering in Coursera, I go and study that. And if there is a 3-month course on robotics, which I can use with my mechanical engineering, I do that. If I'm a civil engineer, I look at Internet of Things and construction, and I do that. So the tools of the fourth industrial revolution, the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, you must master. My final point is about lifelong learning. Learning is not going to be in the classroom for a limited duration anymore. Learning will have to be comprehensive, which means that even as you study in the classroom, you have to study outside the classroom of things which motivates you, which supplements what you're studying in the class, and maybe new things such as AI. But you should also be prepared to continue the studies always. Now, both Neeraj and I make it a point that every quarter we do a new course, be it anything, be it AI, be it happiness, be it life coaching, doesn't matter. Different people like different things. My final point, and this is what I have been making to all the engineering college students, all the students wherever I speak, is that we are going to come to 1 year of COVID very shortly, in about a month, lockdown. And when the lockdown will be lifted, the period will change. Life will become near normal again. At that point, you will be asked one question again and again. What did you do during that time? And we can all say that I continued with my education. I completed my BTech second year, third year, fourth year. That's okay. But that's really not good enough. What will really stand you up among your competitors in an employment market is what we call resilience. What did you do more than what you were expected to do? Did you do any course? Did you learn any new skills? Did you play anything new? Did you work for the community? Did you create a new WhatsApp group with shared knowledge? Did you start a new business selling bananas on the roadside or recycling masks? It doesn't matter what you did. If you did something new, different, innovative than what you are normally doing, so it's don't have to be something new in itself. Selling banana is not new per se, but if you learned to bake cake and created a small WhatsApp group and sold it in your neighborhood, that will be seen as a very positive thing, not only in your job seeking in catering industry, but even in any other industry, because that shows resilience, and resilience will be well sought after. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I have a question. You had mentioned technologies of fourth industrial revolution. Could you please share a few of those technologies?
Thank you. I already mentioned artificial intelligence is the backbone. That is what is going to knit everything together in future. So this is if steam engine was the prime mover of the first industrial revolution, and if electricity was the prime mover of the second, electronics was the third, AI is the prime mover of the fourth industrial revolution. And AI, if you are familiar or not familiar, is domain neutral. It's like a child born into the society. So when the child is born, doesn't know any languages, doesn't know any technology. It's not a civil engineer, it's not a mechanical engineer, it's not a doctor. It's just a set of dots in the brain. And if that child is born in Kerala, in normal situation, in 2 years, the child will start to speak Malayalam because it's hearing Malayalam all the time. And if the same child was taken to Tamil Nadu and started from there, the child will start to speak Tamil. The same person was taken to France, the same child, the child will start to speak French. Because the brain is there as the basic raw material. You give input, it gives output. And AI is identical like that. So AI is domain neutral. It is a basic program. And regardless of the domain you are in, AI would learn that domain and practice that domain and help you to practice that domain. So understanding not the very, very detail about deep learning or AI is important. Understand the tools of AI in your domain would be absolutely critical. If you are a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer, knowing more about robotics and automation would be very critical. As you know, let's say if you take a car, now it is more mechanical engineering in a car than other engineering. But very soon, there will be more computer science in a car than electrical or mechanical engineering. So the car industry would now be more dominated by computer scientists than mechanical engineering. So if you are a mechanical engineer or an automobile engineer, you must study more on computers than automobiles, than mechanical engineering. This is going to the future. Internet of Things, I already mentioned, is another revolution which is happening. That Internet of Things essentially means that there will be an intelligent chip in everything which you can think of, in your fridge, in your water bottle, in your toilet seat, in your chair, wherever you can think of, there will be something intelligent which is connected to the internet and communicating all the time. So that, let's say if you have a chair and you have been using it for 5 years, and this chip is all the time keeping track of how many times you have used it, how many times you have fueled it, how many times you have turned it. And when it reaches a certain amount of capacity, wear and tear, it will warn through the internet into your mobile phone and say your chair is about to break down, so that you don't break your back. Whereas in a normal situation, a chair speaks nothing. So you know nothing. And somebody go and sit on a chair which has gone past its maintainable wear and tear, it breaks down and breaks their back. This is the type of technology which is emerging. So if you are in certain domains, civil engineering, architecture, or to be honest, almost in every domain, Internet of Things would be very useful. So, and then of course, for those who are in other domains like doctors, etc., there are accountants, there is entirely different set of technologies, which I will skip because of engineers. I would say AI, robotics, IoT, I would see are the 3 most critical things for those in the engineering domain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is a question from Ams Joshi, and she had asked about the opportunities and future for biomedical engineer in post-COVID scenario.
Thank you. And it is clearly expected that health will get a boost in the post-COVID scenario, because people realize that unless you invest in health at a very personal level, family level, social level, whatever you have, you cannot enjoy it. So clearly, one should expect more opportunities for everybody in the health profession. And biomedical engineering, being part of that domain, is certainly going to be a growing area. But what is also going to happen is that a lot of this application will become a lot more miniature, common, customized on your mobile. So the type of skills which people needed to have in the past is probably no longer needed. So there will be a dumping down of this type of biomedical technologies. Your phone would probably do, let's say, half of what modern biomedical engineering machines do. So you have to think that way, that it is not that you will actually be managing and running this very modern, sophisticated instrumentation, that you would actually be dealing with them at a much decentralized mobile phone portable level. Also, every household would now have equipment, including on your mobile, but also outside, a lot more. I wouldn't be surprised if upper middle class homes start to have some sort of a place where people who are not well can be quarantined. So the idea of quarantine, even if you have a flu, anything which is infectious would become so routine that these rooms would be then fitted with biomedical equipment. Oxygen cylinders will become so common in a household. So you can imagine that the amount of work the biomedical engineers will have will be really exploding. But you have to think it's not going to be working the way it is right now, but in a lot more decentralized way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, would you like to add anything to that?
Nothing else. I just wanted to say that you should keep, learning when you study or even you are working right now, to learning new things. Please understand what's happening around you, especially in the field of AI and which is related to your particular field of study. So be aware of that. That's the only thing I wanted to add. Also, I'll share a feedback form here in the chat box. Please share your comments about the session. So, is there any other questions?
No, ma'am. That will be all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for your time. So those were the questions for the day, and we've now reached the end of our session. So Cicero once said, gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of them all. And so we have Anand from Biotechnology Department to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to one and all. I am Anand Narayan from S3 Biotechnology, and I'm here to present the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I would like to thank our guest speakers Murali Tumarkudi and Neeraja Janaki for taking out time from their busy schedule and enlightening us with their knowledge. This webinar was full of interesting facts and deep insights. It was really informative, and I'm pretty sure this webinar will help us in our future. I would also like to thank our Executive Director, Reverend Father George Paraman, Director Dr. Elizabeth Elias, Joint Director Dr. Sudha George, Principal Dr. Nixon Kurvilla, Head of Placement Department Vinny Miss, and all other faculties for joining us on this event. I would also like to thank the Placement Cell, IEDC Department, and College Management for conducting this event. Lastly, thank you to all my friends for paying attention till the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Yes, sir.
No, I have no further comments.
Okay, sir. So thank you everyone for attending the session and for being here with us. The session is now ended.
Very interested.
So thank you everyone. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Kindly fill in the feedback forms sent by ma'am on the chat. Thank you, guys.
Paper.